So, how was your weekend?
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, me neither. Good afternoon, sports fans, and welcome to this very melodramatic episode of the Trajan Temple Sportcast. I am your host, professional wrestler and Kansas City Chiefs fanatic Christian Temple, joined side, as always, by my good friend, the terrible towel twirling Trajan. Although I can see the terrible towel twirling's a little less emphatic this week than it has in weeks past here.
It needs some Viagra. I'm not gonna lie. It's
Mm.
it's kind of limp.
I can't say I blame that. So, well, as most of you are aware, it was not a good week in the Chiefs' kingdom nor the Steeler Nation, as both the Chiefs and the Steelers fell to their respective opponents this week. But that does lead to our first ever edition of Drumroll Please. Here it comes. Welcome to I Don't Want to Talk About It. This is a little backstory behind this GIF here, too. So, Trajan actually showed me this GIF the first time, and I forget which game it was. I want to say it might have been the Ravens, actually. I asked him, hey, how you holding up, buddy? And he sends me this. Do you remember, what movie is this from? I can't remember. I know
I don't even know.
it's from a movie. I forget what it was, like American Teen Story or something like that. I think that's what somewhere along those lines.
It
But
just fits so perfectly.
exactly. So yep, that's our segment to start off the week here too, and I will bite the bullet first and move on to my to my chagrin. I can't get over seeing that score. The Kansas City Chiefs lose to the Baltimore Ravens at Baltimore by a final score of 36-35. It was a fun back and forth game, all things considered. Honestly, Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson. I mean, that's always a marquee matchup. They're always going to bring their A game too. It's always a great time to watch these two
Yep.
go at it and trade points back and forth. Moving down to the major stats here too, starting with Patrick Mahomes, pretty solid game, all things considered. 24 completions out of 31 attempts for 343 yards with three passing touchdowns and one interception, which I do have to say, Mahomes will learn this as he gets older, but sometimes you gotta eat the sack because just throwing it up in the air like that usually leads to more harm than good. But he's young. I know he still wants to make that big play out of nothing, and usually he does. He can really make big plays out of nothing sometimes, but sometimes that can lead to your detriment, as the Chiefs found out in this game.
Oh yeah. No, I mean it's uh, it's one of those things where I thought you got this, and then you didn't.
Yes, I won't go into that part of it too much on this, but I will say one of the big surprises that I was really happy to see was Tyrann Mathieu, who did not play last week. Andy Reid kept him on the sideline as a precaution due to positive COVID tests. He came out and showed out in a big way this week, starting the excuse me, not the very first snap, the third snap of the defense. Tyrann Mathieu snags one and takes it to the house, pick six to start off with, and he wasn't done.
Yeah.
He got himself another pick later on in the game. Um, Everyone, and I posted this on Facebook right before I went to bed. I said, they'll be fine. Fans are going to complain about everything eventually. And I said, they'll be fine. Good night. And the one thing I saw everyone at Chiefs Kingdom complaining about was the defense. And you know what? I can't sit here and defend the run defense. The passing defense was phenomenal. It seemed like every time Lamar Jackson actually dropped back and was looking to throw, he was having a hard time throwing completions. But he had a running game, all things considered, beat up as they may be, showed up to play, and obviously he is a threat on his feet. He came to play, and it showed out there too. So defense, their weaknesses were shown there, but nonetheless, high-scoring, fun, high-octane matchup. Kind of reminded me of the Monday night game of the Chiefs versus Rams from a few years back. But nonetheless,
Okay.
yep, the final score remained 36-35. Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson gets his first victory over Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs.
I mean, it's going to happen at some point. I mean, he was due.
Eventually,
But
exactly.
was this the fourth matchup or the third matchup?
I believe this was the fourth matchup. This was 2018.
Yeah.
The Chiefs won in overtime. 2019, that was the home opener that I was at. And then 2020 was week 3 or 4 or something, which was at Baltimore, and
Yeah.
the Chiefs ended up winning that one. So, well, are you ready to take the leap to Heinz Field for
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the same thing that we kind of knew already, the offensive line. And that's kind of where this game kind of falls on. We did have some injuries, some big injuries leading into it with Bush and Hayden. So we're kind of depleted there. Then TJ Watt goes down and Alu goes down. Can't pronounce that name right, but so I mean, there's some big time losses there that kind of held the defense down. But yeah, no, the offensive line needs to play better. I mean, Big Ben was harassed the whole game. I believe at one point he took like 3 sacks in a series. It was either 3 or 2 sacks in a series. So I mean, it's just you can't do that and win games. So I mean, we need to get that offensive line clicking. Of course, having one of your offensive linemen getting ejected in the game never helps. But yeah, no. Positive notes. We saw some development with our wide receivers.
Deontay
We'll
Johnson.
say,
Deontay Johnson with a
yeah,
100-yard receiving game as well. It was a shame to see, or rather, I didn't see it, but to hear what had happened to him at the conclusion of that game. But from what I understand,
yeah,
it's nothing season ending. He should return hopefully within a week or 2 weeks or so.
yeah. No, so I mean, he should be back, but 105 yards. Chase Claypool, 3 receptions, 70 yards. The biggest thing on that Chase Claypool part is he had 9 targets, only three
Mm,
receptions. So I mean,
mm-hmm.
that's not good. He needs to catch those balls. But Najee Harris, he got 5 receptions, 5 targets, so he caught everything that came to him. 1 touchdown, a 25-yard scoring play, so his first touchdown in the NFL. So that's great news. Hopefully, we get more of them. But Big Ben said at the beginning of the year, this offense it's going to have some struggles. It's just a lot of young players molding together. So we'll see, but right now it's looking a lot like 2020 Steelers offense, and that needs to change.
It's a long season ahead of us, even with the extra game that is ahead of us in the season as well.
Mm-hmm.
I made for those that don't know, I was actually at Trajan's house, and even though we couldn't watch the game due to a blackout in the area, we were following along as best we could on our app, and I made the comparison that Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson switched gloves this game, seeing as Deontay Johnson found his hands, whereas Claypool, regrettably so, did not.
Yeah. No, I mean they had some long bombs thrown to them. It's nice to see that, and they caught it. Uh, it's just you got to make those routine catches.
So
That
one thing
really
I will
hurt.
point out too, and obviously you mentioned that there were a lot of injuries on the defense, and it seems like the next man up mentality wasn't there at least in this game here, but it looks like it's going to have to come up very quickly, considering your guys' next opponent this coming week.
Yeah, we got the Bengals next week, so division rivalry. Uh, those who didn't follow along with Steelers last year won't know that we lost to the Bengals that last towards the end of the season. So definitely need to come out guns blazing, take care of a divisional rival.
Absolutely. And some significant losses on the Pittsburgh defense, but also some significant losses at quarterback for several teams in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, week 1, we saw the demise of Ryan Fitzpatrick go down with the hip injury. Saw Taylor Heineke step up in his place. But week 2 really was eye-opening injury-wise, because we saw Tua Tagovailoa, Andy Dalton, Tyrod Taylor, Carson Wentz, and almost Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield go down with injuries. Obviously, Mayfield and Derek Carr returning to their games respectively, but Tagovailoa, Dalton, and Tyrod Taylor out for the rest of their games.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's huge. I mean, offense revolves around the quarterback. He touches the ball every single play. High hopes for Tua. Hopefully he gets back on the field. The one that I feel most bad about is Tyrod Taylor. I mean, this guy can't seem to get a break. He had that Pro Bowl year one year and then just been plagued with injuries.
Stabbed in the lungs. Then Justin Herbert's career gets kick-started right because of that.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I really feel bad for the guy, but, I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
another guy I feel bad for is, of course, Andy Dalton, because not only was he replaced with Justin Fields, who actually, all things considered, did not look that much better in that game against Cincinnati, but I'm certain every single, well, I guess not every single, but a vast majority of Bears fans were very happy to see him go down and see Justin Fields enter, which is, that's not the way to go about that, rooting for someone to get hurt just to see another quarterback step in his place, because as they saw, Justin Fields may ultimately not be the answer. They may be in a permanent Mitch Trubisky situation. Matt Nagy has made it clear that Dalton is still the starter. It appears that he will be ready to play for week 3, so we will continue to see what he does. Tua Tagovailoa, I haven't heard for sure what his status is. I don't believe, since he was helped off the field, it'll be very tough for him to have to return week 3, so thus Jacoby Brissett will most likely start, and of course Tyrod Taylor. Yes, you're right. If they're talking about a quarterback that's met so much bad luck in his career, your heart can only bleed for him, especially for the fact that they can't just fall back on Deshaun Watson now. They are down to their third string quarterback in Houston.
Yep. Yeah, it looks like he's a rib injury there, so it's an unknown status for week 3, but it looks like he's going to be back into it for Tua.
There we go. All right, and moving on to the other scores this week. We are recording this on Monday night, so as a matter of fact, the Detroit Lions and Green Bay Packers just ended a few moments before we started recording this. Going through some other scores this week, starting with the Thursday night game, the Washington football team escaping with a victory by 1 point over the New York Giants. Obviously, the ending of that game saw the New York Giants nearly pull off the miracle with Washington kicking the missed field goal, but of course the Giants getting in their own way as they always do. Offsides on Lawrence, and Washington re-kicks the field goal, good, and Washington moves on with the victory over the Giants.
Yeah, no, and then you got the Jets and New England there, and
results were very much expected on that one.
Oh yeah, I mean Wilson just was throwing to the Patriots in that game, and so he just had a bad game. Hopefully, it's just one of those bad rookie games, and he can move on from there.
I'm genuinely curious if the ghost that Sam Darnold was seeing in New York was the ghost of Mark Sanchez, and maybe that's what's affecting Zach Wilson.
Maybe. I think maybe they just need to tear down MetLife Stadium, start over.
Perhaps so.
It's haunted.
It's very much haunted. Moving on to Denver and Jacksonville. Denver with an impressive showing. Cortland Sutton, one of the top receivers this week, and I say that with all of my hate deep in my soul, because I left him on my bench on fantasy this week. After I told my dad, because he had him on his team as well, I told my dad, yeah, you probably better start Sutton, and I forgot to take him off my bench. So I am repeatedly kicking myself for that. But the expected result, obviously, Denver winning this one. Trevor Lawrence kind of showed some flashes there for a moment, but ultimately Denver was the more complete team, and it's going to be interesting to see how they ride this momentum going into the weeks to come.
Yep, and it'll be interesting. I mean, he just needs some playmakers. But moving on to Buffalo and Miami,
Oof.
Buffalo took all their frustrations on Miami. They didn't hold back at all. So 35-0 shutout at home for Miami after an impressive win over New England division rivals. So
I
definitely.
mean, you want to talk about a get right win after losing at home the week before. You want to talk about a get right win. Holy smokes, Buffalo just unloaded on Miami, and you got to almost feel for the Dolphins fans. You go on the road, a division opponent like the Patriots, you win, you're riding on the ultimate high, and then you just get curb stomped to the ultimate low. Not only 35-point loss, but the loss of your quarterback in that game, and you're hoping and praying that it's not something long term.
No. Yeah, no, it's just terrible.
And then, of course, we actually got to watch part of this game, and it had some moments, but it was pretty uneventful for the most part. But San Francisco taking down the Philadelphia Eagles 17-11. San Francisco moving on to 2-0, as did the majority of the NFC West this week, showing the LA Rams over the Indianapolis Colts by a score of 27-24. And we got a chance to watch a lot of this game too. And I said to you, and it almost came true, the only way the Colts are going to win this game is if LA gives it away. And by God, they nearly pulled that off.
Oh my goodness, they did. And yeah, I mean, you just got to close those games, but they escape with a win. No one remembers the score really at the end of the day. So
a win on the road, is very much appreciated. Definitely. We also saw Carson Wentz go down towards the end of the game, but it looked like it was nothing super serious. So we expect to see him back in week 3. Moving on to Chicago and Cincinnati, which, as we mentioned earlier, with Andy Dalton going down and Justin Fields doing just enough to hold on to the lead, because Cincinnati was starting to make it interesting towards the end. But nonetheless, Chicago gets the win at home. Big win that they needed there to stay competitive in the NFC North with the Green Bay Packers. We mentioned also the Tyrod Taylor situation. Cleveland made it. It was pretty close going up till the end, but Cleveland stepped ahead, and they walked away with a 10-point victory.
Yeah, no, Cleveland, they were impressive there, and they're definitely going to be a top team in our division, but they came in, they took care of business against a team that they should win against, and moving on to next week.
Yep. And we talked about some surprises. One of the big surprises we had this week was one of the big surprises we had last week, obviously, was the New Orleans Saints absolutely curb stomping the Green Bay Packers.
Oh my gosh.
And then coming into this week, what in the world took place at Carolina?
I think they just got high off victory. It's almost what it seems like. They came in there thinking they're top shit, and
it's unfathomable how that happens. And Sam Darnold turned into a competent quarterback there too. Of course, any quarterback can look competent when you've got Christian McCaffrey in the backfield.
Oh yeah, and then you got Jameis Winston not being that efficient in the game there, and the defense really just not holding up against that offense, especially with Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he changes their whole offense. You got some weapons on the outside, and then they have to load the box for Christian McCaffrey. So
exactly. Who'd have thought we'd be talking about Carolina and Tampa Bay, both 2-0 in their division?
That's crazy.
And then moving on to some familiar narratives here. Minnesota Vikings blowing a chip shot field goal to lose a game. I listened to the radio audio for that game a couple hours ago, and it was so glorious because the Minnesota Vikings announcer thought it was good. He started saying, "It's good, it's good." Wait, oh my God, did he seriously miss it? He just
Oh my
so ecstatic, just completely deflated. It was hilarious. But man, oh man, Arizona nearly giving it away at the end, but they move on to 2-0. Won't talk much about Tampa Bay over Atlanta. That was kind of expected. Tampa Bay absolutely curb stomping Atlanta, and the one NFC West team that failed this week, the Seattle Seahawks, dropping the loss to the Tennessee Titans. The Titans down by 15 points. They're down by 15 points at one point and clawed their way back in, and yes, they got the overtime victory.
Oh yeah, and certain Derrick Henry made me lose my fantasy game. So that's always great.
We were sitting there watching Red Zone, and every time Christian McCaffrey got the ball near the goal line, Trajan kept saying, "Please don't get in, please don't get in, please don't get in." But little did he know that there was a darker force awaiting the other side with King Henry, and boy did he absolutely went off. What was it, 29 points for Henry this week in fantasy, at least in our league? Or was it more than that? Was it?
No, he was 47.
47. I was thinking that might have been McCaffrey, actually, at 29 points. But, 47 points for Derrick Henry. He went off this week. Obviously, the narrative being that he will not he'll have a drop-off this year, and apparently he is not having any of that nonsense this year. Moving on to SoFi Stadium, which was completely overrun by Cowboys fans. It was very, very funny to see on TV. But Dallas escaping with the 20-17 victory over the LA Chargers.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's to be expected from the Chargers not having a fan base, but no, Cowboys tried to give that game away. There was terrible game management there.
Towards the end, absolutely.
They're just lucky they had a guy who could kick a field goal. That's basically what it is.
Greg Zuerlein.
So that game would have been won to overtime.
Greg Zuerlein with the 52-yard game-winning field goal right at the very end to put the Cowboys at 1-1. And like I said, the final game, which just ended just a few moments ago, the Green Bay Packers taking down the Detroit Lions with a final score of 35-17, with Packers defense shutting down Detroit, not letting them score a single point in the second half. So the expected outcome ended up happening, with Green Bay moving on to 1-1. Switch back to the main screen here too. So that is our show today. Relatively shorter episode today. Obviously some tears were shed this past week from both of us here, but a great chance for both teams to bounce back. Both have division rivals this week. Kansas City will be back at home taking on the LA Chargers this Sunday at noon. And of course, Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Is that will be home, or will that be on the road?
I want to say that one's actually away. I think that one's on the road.
You can find out if it's on the road and what time it is.
That's I'm nervous about that game because you got that young guy over there, and he can score points, and we need our offense to show up.
Absolutely.
This will actually be at Steelers.
It'll be back at home for you guys.
Steelers at noon.
Another noon game. There we go. So, alrighty. So looking to bounce back this week. Obviously, at the NFL, longer schedule, longer season here too. But we are happy to be just ready to get the season keep it moving and all that. So ready to get back to our winning ways. And by God, I really hope we do. So that is our show for this week. Hope you all enjoyed. Click like if you like the video. Click subscribe if you really like it. Tell all your friends. This is Temple and Trajan signing off.